is Python's de facto standard GUI or graphical user interface package, and it is a thin object oriented layer on top of the TCL or the TK. Now, Tkinter is not the only GUI programming toolkit for Python, but it is the most widely used and the most commonly used GUI toolkit for Python. And it's also very easy to use, and there is a lot of support and help that you can get while using it if you run into an error, because of the documentation, and of course there is a large number of people who actually use it. Then we have the overview of what we'll be covering today. So we will be building an IDE for now to run Python programs, and that will allow you to customize it. So you can customize it as you want. You can save documents, save as document. You'll have the option to save as a new document. You can run the code. You can change the layout or the colors over there, and much more. So, and you can also add on to these features and add or remove whatever you feel is required or necessary for your requirement. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's get started. Let's get coding. Okay, let's start coding our custom IDE. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a simple Tkinter GUI so that we can see actually what's going on and type in the code there. So that's exactly what we'll do. So we'll say from Tkinter import everything. Then next what we can do is we'll create a window. So we'll name it window equals, and then we'll say tk, and finally we can run it. So we can say window dot main loop, and we can save the code and open up our command prompt and run it. So yeah, there it is. This is the start of our process. So we've built a GUI which looks very empty right now. Notice one thing, that it says TK as a label, so we'll change that in a bit, but let's move on. So okay, so when we want to change the label, we can say window dot title, and we can change that. So previously it was just saying TK, we can call it custom IDE. Let's just call it my custom IDE, save it, and it should have the title over there. Now what we need next is we need to have some kind of a place to type in the code. So for that, what we will do is we will create over here something called let's just call it text editor. So we'll create text editor equals text, and it will be a text widget from the Tkinter. And yes, next thing we need to do is to pack. So text editor dot pack, make sure it's there in our GUI, and we can now try running the code again and see what happens. Okay, so here we have our GUI. Notice how the silver color changed to white color, and now I'm able to type it in. I can type whatever, but nothing's happening yet, but it's still a progress. And obviously the title has also changed to my custom ID. So we're moving in the right direction with just very few lines of code. Okay, now next what we want to do is we want to create some type of a button that we can click and run the program. So for that, what we will do is we'll create a menu bar to hold the button, just like it's over here. So there is the run button. We will try to create something of this sort in over here. So let's try doing that. So for creating the menu and the button, we need to first create a menu, which is over here. We can type in, what should we call it? Let's call it menu bar. Okay, menu bar, and then we can equal it to menu. So we can say menu bar equals menu, and then we can pass in our window. So over here we have our window. Yes, this will create a menu bar. Now what we need to do next is we also need to create another bar which will actually hold the button. So what we can call it is let's call it the run bar equals again menu, and then this time around we will pass in the menu bar which we had already created. And yep, one last thing is that we can say run bar dot add. We can add some configuration, so we'll say add sorry, not configuration, add, wait, add command it is, yes, not add command, and then we will give it a label so that we know what's the button actually used for, or what's it called. So we'll call it label equals run, right? Okay, one last thing is we will add all this to the, now we'll add the run bar to the menu bar. So we'll say menu bar dot add cascade. Now this is how it will appear on the GUI, and then we'll just name it run as well. So let's run it and see what happens. Okay, yeah, okay, before we run it, I forgot that we need to place another thing over here, which is menu. We actually need to pass it where uh, the name of the thing, so we'll just call it the run bar, right? So the menu is the run bar, and yep, the menu bar is now connected to attached to the run bar. So let's just save our code and try running it. Okay, right, okay, okay, it's not there because I made a very silly mistake. I actually didn't add it to the window, so let me just do that. Window dot config, and then add in the menu. So menu equals the menu, the name of the menu that we created, which is the menu bar in our case. Okay, let's hope I did not do anything wrong and run it again. Okay, yes, now it's there, and we can see that we have a run button, and when we click on it we get this run button over here. Now we do get this annoying dotted line as well, which does something weird, but let's try to remove this. We can easily remove it. So the way we remove it is we can simply go over here where we declared our run bar, and we can say tear off and then equal to 0. Tear off equals 0. Save the code, try running it again, and we shouldn't have that again. Okay, now we have everything looking perfect. So yes, let's move on to the next stage, which is actually running the code, and that's something that is more important. So to actually run the code that's written in our text editor on our GUI, we will create a function, and we'll call it run my code, for example, or no, not run my code, run my code. And in this function, what we basically are trying to do is to actually first get the text that is written, and then and then run or execute the text or whatever is written in the text. So first we need to get the text, and how we do it is text editor dot get. It's pretty simple, and we need to define from what location we need to start getting the text, and we'll get it from one, which is the starting position, and the second one is the ending position. So we'll get it till the end. So the entire thing, we will get the entire text. And just to see if this works, we will first try printing it. So we'll just print the text. Let me just create a variable, store this in a variable called code. Yep, and this should work. And I spelled print wrong. Okay, and now this should work. But one last thing we need to do is we need to connect it to our run button. So we need to say command equals to run my code, so that it actually knows that when this button is pressed, I need to run this code, this part of the code, or this method. So let's save our code and try to run it. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so we have our editor over here, and we can say for I in range 10, print I, right? Let me just copy and keep this for next time and try running it. So on the command prompt, you can see that it's actually printed the entire text as is. So yeah, this is something that's not we require. We require it to actually run the code. So that is very simple. Now you won't believe me if I just told you that you simply need to change this print command to exec and it would automatically run the code next time. Let's try. So let's run the same command again and open up our IDE and let's just paste it. Oh wait, let me just, or never mind, I think my okay, for I in range, let's print 10 numbers and we can say print I. Okay, and let's run it. Alright, so over here as you can see on our command prompt, it actually printed the 10 numbers from 0 to 9 rather than printing this statement as it was doing previously. So yeah, that's how we can run our commands. Okay, so let's move on. Now, what other functionality we need to implement is we need to have some kind of mechanism to open other files, save our code, and these type of functionalities. So we'll try to implement them now. Okay, so let's just copy these three lines and paste them here and change the name, of course. So we'll make it file bar and reflect the name changes in name over here. And yes, okay. So what basically this command does is it creates a button like this, but sorry, this command, the add cascade, it creates something like this. But when we have to define what the inner buttons are specified as, this is the command that comes into play, which says the add command. So over here, this you can think of as this line over here, and the functions or the buttons that are actually over here are these. So our first one will be options, or no, sorry, not options, or rather open, and this will be our file menu. So inside our file menu we will have the children items as open, save. So we might have to copy this file or this line several times and paste it. Okay, we have the open, we have the save. Let's have another one for save as. Then we have finally we have the exit. Now we need to change the code or this part which says run my code. So every time any button is clicked, it will, for now it will just run the code, but later on when we actually type in the code for these functionalities, we will change them. So let's run and see if everything's working. Okay, so we have the run and the file, though the order is wrong, but we have it. So let's correct the order. This should be very simple. Now the reason order is wrong is because we have the run bar on top and the file menu at the bottom. So let's just change it to the other way around and save our code and try running it again and see if this helps. Okay, so now we have it in the proper order, and now let's head on to adding the functionalities for these buttons. To start with adding the functionalities to these options, let's start with the exit one, which is the pretty simplest one. So if you type in just exit, that's it, it works. So when you click on the exit, it will close everything, and yeah. Next, let's do the functionality for our open button. So our open, okay, not this, open. So what should happen if you click on open? So basically you should be prompted with a dialog box to select a file and then open it up, right? So for the dialog box, we need to import something from Tkinter, which is from tkinter dot file dialog. We need to import something called ask open file name, and we will also import something else which we'll use in the other one, is ask open file names, right? So then we can come back to our open function over here, and what we can do is we can say that our path is equal to ask open file name, and then to filter the file types we can say file types. So file types equal, and we can pass in, say, so we only want the Python, we are only interested in the Python files, so we'll just say Python files, and this should be within quotes Python files, and the extension should be anything that has .py at the end, so asterisk and .py. So this is for, this will open the dialog and we'll be able to select our .py files, sorry. Once we have selected our files, what we'll do is we'll open these files. So we'll say with open, okay, let me not name it open, and let me name it open my file, because just to be sure it does not mess up with our function that we have with open. So what it requires is the path, and since we are only going to be reading the file, we are reading from the file, so we'll type in R and we'll name it open as file. Yep, okay, this, yes. So now what we want to do is we want to read the content of the file, and then if we have anything written on our IDE, we want to clear that and then paste the content of the file that we are opening into the text editor over there. So that's what we'll do. So we'll say text editor dot, or before we even do that, we first actually need to read the file. So for that we will say again we'll call it code equals to file dot read. So this will get uh, all the information or the data that is written into the file. Then we can say text editor dot delete, and what we want to delete is, so basically everything starting from 1.0 till the end. So that basically means anything that is there in the text editor, delete it. And once we have deleted everything, we also want to insert or add in the code that we have read from the file. So for that we have a function which is called insert, and we'll say text editor dot insert. Again, where we want to insert, we want to insert from the starting to the end. So we'll just copy it from there and paste it here. And yeah, we don't want end, in this case we want the code to be pasted. So we want to start from line number 1 and add the code. Yes, and that's pretty much it. Let's see if this actually works. So let's head on to our command prompt and run this again. Okay, wait, I just realized it won't work because we have not connected it to our buttons over here. So over here we need to change it to open my file, right? And yes, now it looks like it should work. So I've saved the code, run it again, and this time around when I click open, it should open up. Yes, so yeah, we can open up the code. Okay, but let's not open it now, and let me type something so that we can actually see if the code that is in here is getting erased. So let's go to file, open, and open up a new file. So we'll just open it, this one. So yeah, there you go. The random text that I typed in has been removed, and our code that we are working on is actually over here. And press the exit button. It worked fine as well. Okay, so let's move on to implementing our save. So we'll say we create a function called save my file as, so this is basically for the save as, and then we will see what we need to do for the save. But for the save as, what we need to do is, so the basic idea is whenever the user clicks on save as, it gets a file dialog pop-up which asks the user to type in the name of the file and then saves it to the location. So what we first need to do is we need to get the path, and that is by asking the user for the path. Okay, wait, I just realized that I imported the wrong thing earlier. So what I need to import is ask save as file name and ask open file name. So just sorry, excuse me for that, and this should be ask save as file name. And yep, and then again it asks, it needs parameters, and these parameters will be the same because we are again saving it as .py file. So, and this is also very much similar, so we'll copy this code. Now what we want to do is we want to first read all the code that is there inside the text editor of our IDE and then write it to the file. So that's what we'll be doing. And one thing is, instead of R we are typing W here, because this time around we are writing to the file rather than reading from it. And the code will be not file.read but text editor.get, and get from 1.0 to the end. So it's 1.0 comma end, and then we don't want to delete it and we don't want to insert it. So yeah, we can just remove these two lines of code, and we can say file dot write, and now we can actually write the code that we copied into the file. So yeah, I think this should work. And one last thing is, when we go to the save as, we need to change this to save my file as, otherwise we'll run into some weird errors and won't even know what's wrong. So let's run our code and see if anything is wrong or not working. So let me just type in anything and see if it gets saved. So file, save as. Yep, there we go. It's asking us for writing the name, so let's just name it test esd.py and save it. And now if we want to open it, we can try opening the file. We can say search for test asd, yes, and open it, and there you go. That is our file. Okay, if you don't believe me, let me just clean it and open it up again, because the exact same thing was written already there. So yeah, it did actually open up the file and the file actually got saved. So yeah, this method was a success. Now we will look into how we can implement the save method. For saving the file, what we can do is we can use the same method as the save as file, but for that we need to first get the path of the file that we are working on. So let's say if we are working on a certain file, if we have the path, we can save or add to that file or overwrite the file with the new additions that have been made. So what I'll do is I'll create a global variable to store the path. So let's create a global variable called okay, first let's just call it gpath, for standing for global path. And once we have the global path, what we want to do is go into the save file method. Okay, let's just create it and initialize it. So gpath is equal to initially empty. Then inside our save file method, what we do is we check that if our file path is we need to check that if the G path is empty, then we will ask the user to save the file or save as. However, if the G path is not empty, then it will save in the same location. So for that, we will write a simple if statement. It says if G path uh, equal null or empty, then what we do is we ask for, or basically we can just copy this line. I can indent it and delete this. So okay, let me not just do that and delete this entire line. Okay, so if the G path is empty, we do this. Else what we do is go back here, and else we can say that our path is equal to gpath. Okay, so this way we should be able to get the path. And yeah, we have to do the same thing or similar thing for the ask open my file as well. So what happens is when the user opens the file, we have to store the path of the file so that we can later use it to save the file when the user clicks on the save button. So for that, we'll simply come here and we will say gpath equals to path. So we need to copy this and put it for the save as well. Sorry about that. So let me just change this gpath. So let me just do this. So I can say global gpath, right? And gpath equals path, and do that over here as well. Global gpath. Okay, not grpath but gpath. Okay, hopefully this should work. Try again for another time and see what happens. So let's open a file and test. Okay, not this one, probably this one, and add in some more 3 lines of garbage and save it. Yeah, so it is saved since we didn't get the pop-up for save as. Now just to see if this has been saved, now this has 1 2 3 and 6 lines of text. Now if I go ahead and remove all this and open the file again, they should bring back the file with 6 lines. Yes, so there it is. So now we have the open working, save as working, and of course exit works as well. So let's just clean this and head on to our last part. Now the last part is that what we want to like what's happening now is we are seeing the text editor and we are getting the output on the command prompt or the terminal in case you're using Linux. But we don't want to do that. We want to have the output or the errors and everything inside the same IDE GUI. So let's implement that. To do that, first we need to create another text editor. So we need to create another text area where we can see the output. So let's quickly do that. And okay, where we yeah, under here we can say okay that let's just name it output. Oh, sorry, output. Oh my god, what's happening to my spelling? Sorry. Output equals, again let's create text and give it a height of 7. Now this is something that you can play around with or choose, and give it a height of 7. This will make it bigger or smaller depending on the height that you give. So I feel that 7 is a good number, but you can again try and whatever works with you, you can choose that number. And then yep, let me quickly show you how this looks. Okay, before we can actually see it, we need to say, okay, not here, we need to say window, sorry, not window, output dot pack, output dot pack, and this will add it to our GUI. Let's run it again, and yeah, there you see. So this is our first one, and this is the second one where we will see our errors. So yeah, and if you change the height, this it will change this line. So if you increase the height, this will take it further up. If you decrease it, further down. So if you go below 7, it will take this bar down. So yeah, you can, I feel that 7 is fine, but again you can change it if you prefer something else. And yeah, once we're done with this, to actually see the errors on the panel or on the second text bar, text output that we created, before we need to change our run method or the run my code method. So this was a very easy way of doing the or running the code, but for in order to do things more efficiently, we'll do it another way. So for that we will create a variable called cmd equals, so basically, or not cmd, let's just call it command equals to, and we'll create our f string, and in that we will run it as python and the name of the file. So we'll give it the g path, right, because that is what we have stored it. So again we'll come here and we'll have to say that g path is a global variable, so global g path, and then this will do is it will run the code or execute the code as you would in from command prompt or somewhere else. And again we need to create a process for this, and before we actually create a process we need to import sub process library. So we can say import sub process, and over here we can say process is equal to sub process dot p open. So sub process dot p open, p open is like it will open the python thingy in a new as a new process so that they can easily communicate with each other. And then we will pass in our command, and for the std out we will say subprocess dot pipe, and again the same thing for std error, we will say subprocess dot pipe, okay, pipe, and finally we will say that shell equals to true. Okay, so far so good. Finally what we need to say is that output and the error, which is, okay, I think I've named the this as output, so let me call this output result and error. These will be equal to whatever the process communicates to them. So if the from the output of the program will be reflected here. So if it's an error it will go into the error, if it's an output it will go into the output result. So what we need to do here is we need to simply say process dot communicate, and this will do the trick for us. Finally, to actually be able to see these changes on our IDE, we need to connect it. So for that we will say output dot insert, and we will go for from the top down. So we'll say at the very beginning insert the output, and if we have an error insert that from the beginning as well. So I'll just copy that, and instead of the not output, I keep mistaking it. Okay, this should be output result, and this one should be error. Right, so this is how we do it. Let's just add one more thing to this, the option that you can only run the program after your file has been saved successfully. So to implement that we will say if gpath, okay, wait, gpath is declared here, so we can call it here. If gpath is equal to empty, then you will, so if there is no gpath and the user is trying to run the code, what we will do is we will ask or prompt the user to save the code first and then run the code. So because if you don't, then it results in some errors. So to avoid all those, we will just ask the user to save the code first. So we can say save save message equals okay, top level, then we have, okay, then we have text, the message that we are actually displaying. So message equals, it will be a label which has the save message, oh no, okay, save message, and the text that we are going to put in there will be save the file first. Save the file first, or let's just be more courteous and say please save the file first, right? And then we can say that message dot back and return. Okay, so this seems fine. Okay, this error has been here because I typed it in wrong. Okay, so save message is top level, and then we add a label, we pack it, and then we finally return. So now if everything goes well, this should be working perfectly without any errors. So let's see. Okay, moment of truth. Let's type something and try to run it without saving it. So let's just print 12 and run it. Okay, so we get a pop-up, small cute little tiny pop-up over here which says that we need to save the code first. So yeah, we can listen to the pop-up and save the code, and yeah, also all the other things still work. We can open the code, we can run the code, and let's just add something more sensible into this and try running the code again, since we have changed the way the code runs, so we need to see if it actually works. So you can say print 12 plus 23, and maybe just remove the spaces and try to run it. Okay, let's save it first. Save, and now run it. Okay, and yes, as you can see, the output is there. So if I run it several times, the output will just start coming from there. Let's see what happens if I make an error. So let me save this file, save, and run it over again. Okay, so I get the error as well. So there is our error as well. So yeah, that's how you can create your IDE. Now a few things that we can tweak over here is, I'll leave the rest to you, but a few things. Now you can play around with these settings and change as much as you want. You can add different colors or something, but one thing, however, that is every programmer's wish, is the dark theme. That is something we're gonna do now. So that is very simple. So what we will do is, we will go to where we have declared our output and text editor. So right here, over here where it says text editor, we will say okay, where is our cursor? Okay, here we'll say text editor dot config, and we will make some tweaks to the configuration. So we will say that background is equal to, and then you can pass in a hexadecimal value. In my case, I seem to like this one, 362F 2E. And so the background color will just change how the background looks, but the text that you'll be typing will still be black because of the default color. So you need to change that as well, and to do that you have to change the foreground color, which will be FG equals, again you can pass in the hexadecimal of the code of the color. And so I have chosen for a darker background with white, a light shade white shade of the text color. And one more thing is that when you have a dark background and a light foreground, your text, the cursor is by default black, so it won't be visible. So you need to account for that as well. So you need to say insert background equals, and okay, this time around we won't be giving in the hexadecimal, we'll just type in white, but you can give in the hexadecimal I think as well. So let's save this, and let's see if this actually made a difference. Okay, so it did make a difference. So let's try typing in. Yes, this looks better, right? It's much more easier to look at. Okay, now the problem is with this one. So we'll give this one a nice matrix look. Okay. So what we will do is we'll copy the same thing. Okay. Instead, we don't really need the cursor to be visible in this, so we will remove this part. And for the background, we'll keep it same, but for the foreground, we will give it a nice green color so that it looks like those sci-fi movies or cyber movies which show people coding. So we'll give it that green color so that whenever we get an error or output, it feels like, oh, we have done something. So yeah, and you can play around with the colors. This is something that I'm just doing it because I like doing it. So okay, wait, why did it not change? I think I did not save the code, or what did I do? Oh, okay, I think it's because I have not changed the name. Okay, silly mistakes. Yes, and let's try running it again. And yes, there it is. Okay, now let's open up a code and see what the error colors or the message color looks like. So this should now give an error. So let's run it. And yeah, the error is a nice green colored error. So yeah, that's how your output will look as well. So the text, the code that you type in will be white, but the output or the error will be the green. Now you can play around and change the color of this and add more functionality. So that really depends on what you want to do, but this is how easy it is to create your own IDE. And the good thing about it is it's very customizable. So now that you have coded it, you know how things work and where I can improve it or what more functions I can add. And it's not very resource heavy as well. So yeah, your CPUs will be thanking you all for this. So yeah, so that's it for today's workshop. Well, that's it for today's session. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button and share it with your friends. And if you want to be notified of any new videos that we upload, consider subscribing to our channel. And yeah, this is Amar signing off. See you next time. Bye bye.